Bucky Barnes is one of the most fascinating characters in the MCU. Bucky has always played a crucial role in the Captain America movies, and it seemed like he was going to be a major player in Phase 3. However, his role in both Infinity War and Endgame was extremely limited, which was a huge shame. So it's time to fire up the what if machine and ask the question, what would have happened if Bucky didn't get dusted in Infinity War and played a much bigger role in Endgame? When the decimation happened, Bucky Barnes was the first to turn to dust. It was genuinely a shocking moment, but after watching Avengers Endgame more times than is humanly possible, I actually think that dusting Bucky in Infinity War was a huge missed opportunity. He wasn't just Steve Rogers' best buddy, but also the main focal point in Steve's journey. Bucky's role grew over time, becoming more crucial with every Captain America movie, and his arc was pretty fascinating. After Civil War, you would think that Bucky's role in the MCU would only get bigger, but his screen time in both Infinity War and Endgame was extremely limited. To put it in perspective, Sebastian Stan was on screen for a little over 4 minutes in both movies. 4 minutes! Look, it's fine that Bucky didn't play a huge role in Infinity War, since that movie had so many characters and moving parts. But it was really all about Bucky's limited role in Endgame. Bucky was around since Phase 1, and it was a huge shame that he was so misused in what was the culmination of a decade of storytelling. I mean, do you even remember what Bucky did in the final battle? I think there was a moment where he teamed up with Rocket, but it was so small and insignificant that I barely even remember it. Not to mention the whole not getting the shield thing in the end. So yeah, what I'm saying is that they shouldn't have dusted Bucky. There was so much potential for him in Endgame, and it's a shame that we didn't get to see any of it. So let's go back to Avengers Infinity War. 50% of the universe was wiped out, but this time around, Bucky isn't one of the dusted. The first major change to Endgame would happen early on. Remember the scene where Tony took out all of his frustration on Steve? Well, now imagine if Bucky was there. In Civil War, we found out that the Winter Soldier killed Tony's parents, which led to Tony trying to kill Bucky. And that is the type of friction that leads to fascinating storytelling. There should have been a moment between these two characters in Endgame. We needed some resolution to what happened in Civil War. I think that not having Tony and Bucky interact at all in Endgame was one of the biggest missed opportunities in the movie. And so, with Tony at his lowest moment, having Bucky in the room would have made his emotional outburst into a full-on blazing eruption of fury. This confrontation will complicate things for the rest of the movie. In the original version of Endgame, Tony and Steve reconciled after the 5-year time jump. But would that still happen with Bucky around? Since Steve will always protect Bucky, and Tony won't be able to just let bygones be bygones, there will be friction between both Iron Man and Captain America, something that could put the mission to collect the Infinity Stones at risk. While becoming a father changed Tony for the better, I think that the tension between him and Bucky shouldn't just fade away. I mean, it kinda makes the events of Civil War feel less important if Tony and Bucky just move on like it never happened.
This isn't gonna change what happened. I don't care. He killed my mom.
Of course, since the whole universe is at stake, Tony will tolerate Bucky's presence, but due to his personality, Tony will not make it easy on Bucky. The wounds from the past don't just fade away, even after a cataclysmic event like the decimation. And all of this will set up a moment later in the movie where Bucky will do something that earns Tony's trust and forgiveness. Perhaps Bucky will save Tony's life at some point, or even better, save Pepper. Something like that will surely change Tony's perspective. It's also possible that after being able to finally make things right with his own father, Tony will be able to be more compassionate towards Bucky and Steve. Tony will understand that Bucky was brainwashed and he isn't really such a bad guy. Tony knows better than anyone how daunting the past can be. He himself did some terrible things in his time. But, just like in his own story, Tony will see that the past doesn't condemn Bucky as a person. That Bucky is one of the good guys and he genuinely regrets his past sins. Which, like in Tony's case, is the type of thing that could make Bucky into a much better person and hero. And this could have been a fantastic arc for these two characters. In a way, Bucky showcases just how far Tony has come since Phase 1. As a person, Bucky needs that absolution from Tony. While he was brainwashed, Bucky still feels responsible for all the atrocities he committed as the Winter Soldier. So getting that forgiveness from Tony would finally allow him to move on with his life. Being validated by Captain America and getting the shield is a big thing for sure, but Bucky killed Tony's parents, not Steve's. In a way, Steve's approval can be taken for granted. He's clearly going to stand by Bucky no matter what. This is why being forgiven by Tony is so much more important, and it is key for Bucky's redemption arc. Having Bucky around would have allowed us to see Steve and Bucky working together again, just like the good old days. Two World War buddies teaming up for one final mission. Plus, with Captain America using Thor's hammer during the climax, maybe it would have been nice if he allowed Bucky to use the shield for a bit, even if it was half broken. Actually, this represents Bucky pretty well since he's kinda broken too. I actually think it'd be really fascinating if Bucky would keep the broken shield for himself as a reminder of his fractured past. So, with the broken shield, Bucky would forge a new superhero identity, which would be more interesting than him just replacing Steve as the new Captain America. Also, I really want to see some more stuff with Bucky and Rocket. At the very least, Rocket could have upgraded Bucky with a cool space gun. I mean, come on, all these heroes with super advanced tech and no one thought about hooking Bucky up with a cool new gun?
How much for the gun?
Not for sale.
Okay, how much for the arm?
Now, the other question is, what role would Bucky play in the time heist? I think that in this what-if version, Bucky would have traveled with Nebula to collect a Power Stone from the 2014 timeline. I honestly don't know what that would mean for War Machine. I guess he could join them or the other heroes. Look, let's be honest, Marvel Studios never really did anything interesting with War Machine. He was just kinda there, but never really doing anything major.
Okay, what?
There are so many interesting parallels between Bucky and Nebula. The original movie centered on the fact that both Nebula and War Machine have mechanical parts in them, but that's such a surface way of looking at things. Nebula was brainwashed and abused by Thanos. It goes beyond all of her mechanical body parts. It's about how Thanos broke her mentally, which is very similar to how Bucky was brainwashed and abused by Hydra. They were both turned into assassins for evil causes, but they also were able to achieve redemption with the help of people who know and love them. And seeing these two broken people rise above their past and become better in spite of it is so much more powerful. Since this is a what-if video, we've got to talk about some other interesting possibilities. Like, what if Captain America and Bucky were the ones who traveled to Vormir? This would be fun from the start, since both heroes would confront Red Skull once again. I wonder how all three would react to each other. But then there's the Soul Stone. Someone will need to take the dive off the Vormir cliff. Could you imagine if this was the end of Bucky's story? Because we all know it would be Bucky who gets sacrificed here, not Captain America. Steve and Bucky love each other like brothers, so Bucky sacrificing himself for the Soul Stone would have been a serious emotional gut punch. While I don't want Bucky to die in Endgame, it could have been a fitting end for his story. A war hero turned assassin who was able to redeem himself by sacrificing himself to save half of all life in the universe. But just to make it clear, I had no issues with the scene we got in Endgame. The emotional death of Black Widow was very powerful, so I won't steal this moment from Natasha. Anyway, the rest of the movie would be mostly the same. Which brings us to the end of the movie. Captain America goes back to the past, and then Old Man Cap shows up. Now this is the tricky part. Like many other fans, I think that Bucky should have been the one who gained the shield. I have nothing against Sam, but Bucky getting a shield was teased for a long time, and it just made more sense.
Nice save.
I gotta get me one of those.
But I think that getting the shield isn't as crucial for Bucky's redemption arc. He could still always become the new Captain America in the future. A character's arc can't be summed up by just gaining a fancy frisbee. It's about the journey, not the accessory. Bucky being forgiven by Tony and playing a crucial role in Endgame is so much more important to his story. But like I said before, maybe if Bucky keeps the broken shield for himself, he could move forward with his life and become his own hero. Which brings me to what I said at the very beginning. Bucky shouldn't have been dusted. Avengers Endgame is a fantastic movie with or without these changes. However, I do believe that having Bucky around would certainly make things more interesting. Hopefully, Bucky will get more to do in the Disney Plus show The Falcon and the Winter Soldier and other future MCU movies. So what do you think about all this? Do you think Bucky should have played a bigger role in Endgame? What other what-if videos would you want us to do? Let me know. And if you like this video, please hit that like button and make sure to subscribe to CBR for more what-if videos. Thanks for watching.